Hello, everybody. Welcome to TUDO TUGA, the Everything Portuguese Soccer podcast. I'm Mitch Frere.
Christian, you doing?
This is the big relaunch, guys. We're back after a little hiatus,
Yeah.
after some rest and recovery after a crazy season.
Been way too long, man. I was just standing in the sidelines, just couldn't wait to jump back in. So much going on in the world of soccer. We definitely missed you guys, and we're definitely happy to be back.
We're back. Christian and I are going solo on this. Kevin is no longer with us. He's going on to bigger and better things, but it's okay because Christian and I are going to take over, and it's going to be good, man. We got a new format, so we're excited to get into it. So new format, guys. It's going to be pretty fluid, but we're going to be looking at top of the dia. We're going to run through all the major stories in all the big three newspapers in Portugal. Record and Bola, see what's going on in the world of Portuguese soccer on the front cover of those, and then we're going to be running through just Tuga topics, so our top stories, running through all of what's happening, what we're going to be covering, and obviously just some good conversation back and forth. So it's going to be good. So get started. Let's
Yeah.
start looking at what's going on in the world of Abola. So start off record. Água na boca. Água na boca. So, record de outra galáxia. Talking about obviously Benfica against Midtjylland.
Against who?
Midtjylland.
I never heard of
O
him.
Midtjylland. O Midtjylland. Danish team. Obviously, we're going to be talking a little bit more about this game, but a really great game for Benfica. So, Record talking about that. Also talking about a couple of different ones. O jogo, passo gigante. Obviously, talking about a big game for Benfica again. Also talking about Sérgio Conceição. Uh, Talking about him being the next fourth president. There was an interview being done there by O jogo.
Imagine
Obviously,
him
talking
as a
about that.
president. Jesus.
Palmeiras also going after Tabata. That's big news for Sporting potentially getting rid of Tabata. So those are the big. I like the Agua da Boca, though. Agua na Boca, because honestly, the Benfica game really did leave you with Agua na Boca. It really.
Yeah, how you liking the new transfers? It's been a big off season for you guys. Massive off season.
It has been big.
Uh, I know from the outside looking in, obviously you can go more in depth in it, but David Neves looks pretty good. Um, even I think his name's Enzo Fernandes.
Hmm.
He scored a nice goal, so it's working, but it's still early, right?
It is
You
early.
guys, even last season, not to burst anybody's bubble, but they had a great beginning of the year too. They also, qualified for Champions League. So
Well, we'll get into Benfica. So first,
yeah,
just run through the topics. We're going to be looking at a couple of things today, guys. Obviously, talking about Benfica versus Midtjylland for the third round of qualification. We're going to be talking about that, looking at some highlights from there. Obviously, we have to talk about the Ronaldo saga. What is going on with Cristiano Ronaldo right now at Man United? Where is he going? Is he staying? What is he doing? Is it the right thing? So we'll be going into that a little bit, and then of course just covering some Tuga transfer news and rumors, just covering all of the latest in transfer news and rumors with you guys, and then we'll end things off with a little preview to the Liga Portugal, which is kicking off on Friday. Benfica Roca. We'll get into all of that good stuff, predictions, all the good stuff. So to start, Benfica Midtjylland, the Danish team that Benfica give a little shellacking to. We'll jump into to some highlights, but obviously Benfica, really good game. I don't know if you caught the game.
I didn't catch the game, but I did watch the highlights. Gonçalo Ramos with the hat trick. He looks like a promising player for Portugal. He looks really good in the preseason.
He's gonna be our talisman this year, and I was actually really upset. Anybody who knows me knows how much of a fan I am of Gonçalo Ramos. Lots of talk about him going to PSG. Get your hands off of Ramos. He is gonna be our number 9 this year. He's proving it. I mean, he's such an underrated striker for Benfica. Classic number 9. His movement in the box. Oh my god, it's unbelievable. The kid's a gem. I think he was always just really missing that key player that could give him that service for him to really shine.
Also, Darwin being gone paved the way for him.
Yeah,
You know,
100%,
Darwin being a
100%,
superstar, obviously he's not going to play over him.
100%.
He's also starting off well with Liverpool. So yeah, him being gone. Also, like you just mentioned, David Neves coming in, it's definitely going to help him a lot. And yeah,
Guys like this, Rafa, Ramos. But Ned, I mean, I like to call him Sleepy Man. He looks like dopey. He looks permanently high.
he looks
The guy
baked,
is permanently baked. But
doing
he look at
bong hits on the bench
but
there.
the boy can ball. Let me tell you, the guy played
He's
really
good.
really well, and I think he's a good addition. Of course, Midtjylland is not the biggest competition, but definitely I think a little bit of a bigger threat than Everton was for us on the wing. I think he's going to give us a lot of depth up front and just a lot of options going forward. I think it's going to be really good. I really like the way Rogério, we like to call him Rogério, Roger Schmidt, has Benfica playing right now throughout this. And of course, Benfica is undefeated in all other pre-league games here, and it's just he's got us playing this high press football. That's just it's really effective. But it's also extremely fatiguing. That's my biggest concern. Like it's very high press. You can see exactly what he's doing. And it's just it's the only thing is it can be very fatiguing. So one of the big things he's gonna to see is how Benfica can keep that style of play up throughout even games. Because sometimes, you were seeing in pre-league he was preseason. He was switching 6, 7, 8, 9 guys out at halftime. You're obviously not going to have that luxury in regular season.
For sure, and I'm actually happy you brought that up because I was going to bring that up. One of his critiques, and you paved the way perfectly, is that later on in the season his teams do get more fatigued. But that being said, Benfica has a lot of depth, so they'll have to play around with that. But for me, that will be the biggest question mark because yeah, everybody's fresh, everybody's feeling good right now. Everybody wants to impress. You know that feeling when you get a new coach. Everybody's firing on all cylinders. Where you really see this team is a few months from now, uh, and adversity. They haven't been through adversity yet. Obviously, most teams haven't, but that's when you really tell the coach and the team and the project that's going.
Well, and what I love to see was also the new guys like Enzo Fernandes. Beautiful first goal for Benfica. Let's start calling him Bombas Enzo right away. But I mean, unbelievable first goal. It's good to see the new guys coming in. I love the dupla with him and Florentino Luis Camp. I thought that was really really good. Your boy João Mario also kind
Oh,
of
here we
playing in
go.
that classic 10 because he's playing a 4-2-3-1 is what he's doing. And it's nice to see with João Mario hanging back in that 10. I know you don't like João Mario. It is what it is. But it will be nice to see João Mario kind of get back into his groove and playing that beautiful world class football that we're used to seeing him play for Benfica. So it'll be interesting to see. Benfica has potentially either Dinamo Kiev or Sturm Graz coming up next. Dinamo Kiev took out George Jesus, our best friend, took out George Jesus and Fenerbahce. Unfortunately, once again, wasn't able to, or I shouldn't say once again, but he wasn't able to get into the Champions League this year for Fenerbahce, which he didn't seem too concerned about. But Dinamo Kiev took them out, and Dinamo Kiev beat Sturm Graz in the first leg, 1-0. So we'll see.
One thing I think that you didn't touch up on yet is that I've noticed for Benfica, they actually have a favorable schedule for them to make Champions League.
Já estás a arranjar desculpas
No,
ou
no,
what?
no, no.
Oh,
Hear me out. Hear me out. I'm not saying it's conspiracy. I'm just saying that it actually worked out good for them because, like, given like Sporting, they have to play Braga, Porto, all these big teams right away. Luckily for you guys can concentrate more on the Champions League qualifying, and then later on in the season, you guys can taper in and play the bigger teams.
And no COVID.
No COVID.
No há mais COVIDs, okay? No more COVID desculpas this year, okay?
Yeah.
We're here to win this year.
Are you guys gonna play with the Deep Blue this year though? I've been hearing that for a long time. Started
Okay.
with triplo. That's what Jorge Jesus said. Não vamos jogar o dobro. Vamos jogar o triplo.
O
So
triplo.
We'll
O
see.
triplo.
We'll see if the triplo's
Ai,
coming.
Jesus. No pun intended. All right, guys, running into the next topic. Obviously, this has been running wild through everybody's news feeds lately. The Ronaldo saga.
Ono sta CR7.
What?
Never heard that term?
No, what is that?
Atletico was a beak for Ronaldo, and then he came back and scored a hat trick.
Obviously, we've been hearing everything going on. Ronaldo to Athletic, these crazy rumors, Athletic not wanting him, Bayern not wanting him, PSG not wanting him. What's going on, man? You're the big Ronaldo fanatic here. What's happening?
I think not wanting him is being a little bit disingenuous. I'm sure some teams don't want him, but some teams already filled in those voids. Like I'll give you an example: Manchester City, they picked up Holland, whereas last year they were looking for that void. Bayern just, I don't know, that one you could say that they just didn't want him. There is a couple teams. I think it's just one of those times where it's some teams don't want him, or it's not the right time, or they don't want to take up this contract at this. He's 37 years old. You're going to pay 30 million for a 37-year-old, even though you know what he can do. Still a big risk. So a lot of teams are just moving on to which I understand, to like a younger prospect looking for the future, whereas Ronaldo is a now. And that being said, he's also linked with Sporting, and obviously it's astronomical. Won't happen. It's such
Do
a
you
rare
think what he's
thing.
doing is right?
No. Well, the thing is, it's hard to say because we never heard anything like official. It's all like hearsay and kappas and all those things. But if it is how they're saying it is, which nothing's official, yeah, then it's hard to back him. As much as a Ronaldo fan I am, you know, it's really hard to back him. Although I get where his head's at, I don't agree with how he's dealing with it. Again, if it's based on what's coming through the media. So yeah, I don't back him if that's the case.
I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Uh, Ronaldo is at this point in his career, he's looking out for one thing and one thing only, and that's his legacy.
Yeah,
One. So, I mean, we all know his biggest, you know, the one thing he really concentrates on is his Champions League, you know, records and whatnot. So, for him at this point in his career, let's be realistic, he probably doesn't have a whole lot of years playing at top flight European football. You gotta expect that he's gonna feel he needs to be at a team competing in the champion. I mean, can you even imagine Ronaldo sitting down on a Tuesday or Wednesday night watching Messi compete in a Champions League game, knowing that he cannot get up the next morning and try to outperform Messi? Like, can you even fathom Ronaldo doing that?
yeah, it's tough.
I mean, you have to know he doesn't want to stay at United. My thing is the way he's gone about it. I think has been a massive, massive disrespect to the club and to his teammates. You know, the issue I have with what he's done is if he doesn't leave, what does this do to the dressing room at United? Like you're playing with Ronaldo. If you're playing with him, this guy just fucked off during the entire preseason. Didn't come with them to Asia. Didn't come with them to anywhere else that they went. And all just shows up. Everybody knows. We're assuming that he wanted to leave. Like, what does that do to the dressing room? Like, what does that do to the players that are playing with him? And when we talk about big clubs not wanting him, you gotta think other clubs are watching what he's doing to United.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
if I'm a Bayern Munich or if I'm any big club out there and I'm watching what he's doing to United right now, I'm saying, fuck. Why do I want to bring him? Look what he's doing to United. So what happens if we don't make Champions League next year? What happens if we shit the bed? He's gonna fuck off. That's what like you say. If this is true and this is all legit and it really is happening the way it's happening, which I think we all know it is because I think we all know Ronaldo doesn't want to play at United when they're not in the Champions League. Man, it's disappointing to see him treating a club that's so iconic and so you know important to him and his legacy. Him treating them.
Yeah, and I can agree with that. It's hard to disagree, and we all know how big of a Ronaldo fan I am. So for me to say that, it's taken a lot, but I agree. But I think this stems even further than just Champions League. Of course, that's a pillar. That's one of the main things. When you think about Ronaldo, you think about Champions League. But I think there was a lot going on in the dressing room even last season. Nani sort of slipped up uh, to the Portuguese media talking about how he doesn't like Maguire and how he told him a bunch of blah 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 blah. I'm sure you
Yeah,
heard
yeah,
about that,
yeah.
Mitch.
We are.
So that being said, he doesn't like there. So again, the new coach came in, deemed him as captain again. So that's probably another taint in the armor. Then you throw in he was complaining that they didn't do enough transfers in the offseason. That's number 2. Number 3, you know, again, the main thing is no Champions League. So I think there's a lot of things going on in the background too.
Mhm.
That's that's still, I'm not saying I agree with his the way he's handling it, but I do think this is layered, not just so simple as Champions League or not. So I know there's for sure some stuff going on.
But him to Sporting, is that a realistic thing?
Can you believe there was guys that did not, were iffy about him going to?
Name drop, come on.
No,
Name drop.
I can't, I
Name
can't.
drop. Name drop.
I respect him too much. I can't.
You know who
But
you are. You know who you
I
are.
don't
I'm
give a
listening.
shit what kind of Ronaldo we're getting. Egotistical, whatever. I'm telling you, Ronaldo over Paulinho. Ronaldo over Paulinho.
Não me digas, pá. Não me
Oh
digas.
man, yeah. Honestly, even for a season, 2 seasons, obviously we're not gonna get the best version of him, but man, he would make a difference. I would take if that's the case, if that's what they're worried about, him being a cancer. I mean, what he'll bring to the team in terms of financing, marketing, you know, big performances, potentially titles. I mean, you can handle 1 or 2 years of Ronaldo if that's the case. Although I don't think that's the case.
Man, I honestly I could see it happening. I don't know if I could see it happening now. The only way I could see it is if Man United said, "Okay, Ronaldo, we understand you need to play in Champions League," and them agreeing to loan him out for a year to somewhere like a Sporting where he can at least get 1 round, maybe 2 rounds, maybe of Champions League football in for a season. But then you got to look at what the hell's going to happen with this contract. I can't see him going to another EPL team. I can't see United allowing him to go to like when they were talking about him going to Chelsea. I could not see
Yeah.
United selling him to another EPL. It's not happening. So the only team I could realistically see as a potential if he doesn't get bought would be a loan deal to Sporting.
Yeah.
And if that happened, the big question is what happens with this contract. Because I mean, let's be realistic. Sporting doesn't have the money to be taking on a 20. I think it's 25
25 million.
$25 million a year salary. So that's the question is what happens with the salary.
But I know you brought this up a little bit off air, but there's ways to negotiate a $25 million contract. Obviously, Sporting can't afford that, but you brought up some broadcasting deals. I mean, we can go on and on about ways to make it
Well, I'll
happen. But
put it this way: Sport TV owns the rights for Liga Portugal. Okay?
yeah,
If I was Sport TV right now, and it was a legitimate possibility to get Ronaldo at Sporting, I would go up to Sporting and say, if you guys get Ronaldo, we'll pay 75% of his salary.
there you go.
Because what Sport TV could do to turn around and license out the amount of people who'd be interested in gaining rights to showing Liga Portugal just for Ronaldo alone, my God, worth millions,
You
worth
know,
millions and millions and millions of dollars. Not to mention what Sporting would make, and this is aside, what Sporting would make on jersey sales alone could obviously help with that. But just in the TV rights alone, which Sporting obviously doesn't have because it's out to Sport TV, but Sport TV is probably sitting back licking their chops. If I was Sport TV, I'd already be looking to see what kind of deals I could strike if Ronaldo went to the Liga. Who would be interested in snapping up the rights? Because if you see that they're worth 100 $200 million, what's paying $25 million salary to get him there? I'm
yeah.
not saying they pay his whole salary, but there's definitely something there for that's obviously not there on a regular basis for Liga Portuguesa that could be very lucrative.
And then and taking away my bias aside, because we all know Ronaldo, Sporting, two favorite things, especially in soccer, right? But that aside, me putting that completely aside and trying to be completely non-biased, I think it would be great for the league as a whole. Just the amount of people watching our league would skyrocket.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is just me thinking that maybe it's true or not, but I actually think it would help with a lot with corruption, a lot with these horrible refs because so many more eyes will be on the league and so many more people were talking about it,
Yep.
saying, "Oh, how would you call
It's a
this?
really
Oh,
good
look at
point.
this." So I think all these factors would be beneficial
Mhm.
for the Portuguese league. Obviously, no Portuguese person outside of Sporting would like to see him there, You know what I mean? Because he's such an icon. You know what I mean? There'll be for guys like I'm gonna name drop one person like Richie Ferrer, one of the biggest Ronaldo fans I know. I can only imagine. I could only imagine what would be going through his head. But
You think Richie would ever wear a Sporting Ronaldo jersey?
so I know for a fact he wouldn't. You know wanna know why? Because in his basement, he has all the Ronaldo jersey club teams except for Sporting, and every time we're
Epa,
there, we always bust his balls saying
epa.
that he's missing one.
All right. All right, guys, jumping into our next topic, transfer news. It has been a very, very busy season. Obviously, we're not going to run through everything because we don't have that much time, but we're going to hit you with the most recent news, the latest and greatest, starting off with a big one. We've been talking about this almost all flipping summer. It seemed like it was never going to get done. Renato Sanches finally signed to PSG, adding to the Portuguese contingent at PSG. Now we're looking at Nuno Mendes. Vitinha made the big move this summer from Porto. Uh, our favorite, Daniel Pereira, already
Ugh.
there. And now, of course, joining them, Renato
And
Sanches.
Gonçalo Ramos linked with him too.
Who?
Gonçalo Ramos.
Gonçalo Ramos is not going anywhere near PSG.
Yeah,
Get out of here.
just
No,
saying, just
this
saying.
was a good move. I mean, between AC Milan, because that was the other big club looking at potentially signing him. What do you think? Him at PSG?
Renato Sanchez at PhD, I think it's going to be good for him. He's already used to the French league, won the league with Lyon. Not Lyon, sorry. Excuse me. A long day. With Lille. He's proven in that league, although we all have our opinions on that league. But I think he's weathered for that league. I think it's been a great move. Knows a lot of Portuguese players, like you just mentioned. I think it's the perfect place for him
Does he
as we
take
said.
Verratti's spot in the middle?
I
Because
mean,
I
he
mean, they're
can.
playing a they're playing a 4-3-3. Yes, she likes to play a 4-3-3. Normally, you get Vitinha's kind of been slotting into the middle with Verratti. Uh, like, does he take Verratti spot? Does he? Are you playing Verratti in him? Like, what do you think? What do you think?
I think they have something envisioned for him to go and splash cash on him. He's a special player. A special player. He had a shaky career beginning. He started off obviously really well with Benfica. I believe he won Golden Boy that year.
Mhm.
Did really great in the Euro, and then he moved on to Bayern, and it was really bad after that. Somehow pulled himself back up, and he's looking like a superstar again. So for them to be splashing money on him, they have something planned for him.
No, I'm excited to see him there. Not only to see him there, but to play with talent like Neymar and Mbappe and Messi on a regular basis is gonna be really cool. I'm really excited about that move. We're definitely gonna be tuning into more PSG games. That's for sure, especially with all those players there. Next big rumor right now, we're gonna talk about Bernardo Silva to either Barca or PSG. That was the name that got thrown around today in the media. Of course, everybody is talking about Bernardo Silva going to Barca pending the De Jong transfer from Barca to United. They're saying if De Jong moves from Barca to United, a vacancy will open up for Bernardo Silva as well as some funds. What do we think about this move for Bernardo Silva to potentially Barca?
Honestly, I think okay, before I even say this, what the hell is going on with Barca? I can't even I'm talking about Lewandowski and Bernardo and all these big players. Weren't they like over $1 billion in debt?
So Juan Laporta came out in an interview the
Oh,
other day, and he basically
bunch of bullshit.
explained this. The question was asked because that same question is on everybody's mind: is how is Barca affording all these superstars? And he explained that Barcelona sold 25% of their TV rights for the next 25 years to an investment company for around 600 million euros, and they also sold some of their merchandising rights and whatnot. So he was saying for this season, they have already posted revenues over $1 billion with over 124 million euros in profit already this year, which has been one of the most profitable years Barca's had in a while. So that is apparently where Laporte, and that is a crazy concept. If you think about what they've just done, they've sold 25% of their TV rights for the next 25 years. for
Yeah.
fixed sum of 600 million. That is definitely a short-term
Game.
short-term gain because you have no idea what's going to happen in the next 5, 10, 15 years. So that is a very, very wild move. And he even said he did not want to do it, but he was forced into doing it because of the financial situation that Barca found themselves
But
in.
they can't pay De Jong because they're poor. They said they couldn't afford to pay De Jong. I don't know if you heard of that. What that story?
I don't believe that. I
I
don't
don't
think
believe
that's
it.
you can't say you can't afford to pay De
A
Jong,
bunch
but
of
then you're on the
bullshit.
back end. You're planning on bringing in Bernardo Silva. It makes zero
Rafinha,
sense.
Lewandowski, Bernard Silva. Buddy, they arguably have the best front three in the world right now. But that being said, to touch up without derailing this conversation, Bernard Silva, honestly, besides all the other stuff we just talked about, I think going to a Barcelona would be beneficial for him.
You think so?
Yeah, because I think at Manchester City, he's not like he's sort of what's the proper term? He's not like playing every single game. That's a team that rotates all the time. I think him to go to a team like Barcelona be more solidified and get a lot more playing time that I think he deserves, and he could take his game to the next level. That's just my opinion.
I think it's a step back for him.
I think the team's a step back, but I think it'll be better for him for playing time. That's just my opinion, though.
You think so?
I
He
do.
plays a lot at Man City, man. Pep's always talking about how Bernardo Silva is one of his most important players. Last year, I think he even said that Bernardo Silva was one of his most important players.
Yeah, but they like to call it the flavor of the month. So like a few months, Bernardo Silva will be fucking tearing it up. And then the next month it's Foden. Then the next month
Well,
it's
I mean,
you know
you've
what I
got
mean?
that. He's got that luxury because of the
For
fucking
sure.
depth he's got on.
I know, but there's a lot of rotation, which is maybe it's beneficial for Portugal. Less less mileage on his legs.
Yeah,
But I do think for him to be a better player,
but you think it's a better career move?
I do think it's better. Yeah.
Interesting. And what about PSG? Do you think that's a good move for him? If that is
I mean,
legit,
I think it would be. I don't know if it would be a better career move, but I do, in a selfish way,
yeah.
I do think it'll be better for Portugal. You have all those top players playing together. Man, chemistry is a big thing. People
Yeah.
don't talk about that enough. Like the prime Spanish teams was mostly Barcelona players.
Are we
and some
talking about
amateur-
a potential Bernardo, Danilo, and Renato Sanchez
Oh, watch out.
midfield three at PSG?
Oh,
Is that
yeah.
what we're talking about here?
Danilo can go, man. Danilo can go. Those shoemakers can. It's time for him to step aside, man.
Jesus, come on, come on. He's still there.
Yeah.
I don't know. That Luis Campos, if anybody doesn't know, for those of you who don't know, Luis Campos is a Portuguese sporting director for PSG. I think that's why he's one of the big reasons for this massive Portuguese contingent all of a sudden finding its way to PSG. He's the one that's apparently in Jorge Mendes' ear. Jorge Mendes is obviously Bernardo Silva's agent. He's the one that kind of popped up in the news as potentially having some conversations with Jorge Mendes if the Barca move doesn't work out with Bernardo Silva to bring him to PSG. So that
PSG's turning into the new Wolves.
yeah, man,
A better version.
interesting stuff. So we'll see how that story kind of progresses as we get towards the end of the transfer window. The other a couple of young kids we're going to talk about that got sniped up. Maji Esteves from Porto, young, promising right back, signed on loan with the Pisa in Serie B.
Not Pisa. Pisa.
Pisa,
Pisa.
Pisa,
Not Pisa.
like
No.
not not Pisa. Good, actually, good player, really good player.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got a couple of minutes. He got some playing time last year. He's always usually playing for Sub-21 for Portugal as well. So playing in Serie B.
We're
I
just
don't know,
pumping out freaking
talent up there at
buddy.
the center. Another young kid, really good, Tiago Ribeiro, formado no Porto. Belonged to Monaco. Monaco picked him up a couple seasons ago from Porto. They just loaned him out to Valencia. I don't know how much playing time he's going to get at Valencia. I was kind of surprised, but he is a very, very good young midfielder. So a couple of young Portuguese kids getting moved around Europe. Good to see. Another one we'll talk about, Samuel Portugal. This guy we used to call him on the podcast Aranha, man.
Oh, yeah.
He was like a tarantula, man. This guy, I'll never forget Portimonense Benfica last season. This guy literally looked like a freaking tarantula.
He was a player pick after the Benfica
He
game.
was, yeah.
He put on the game of his life
Unbelievable
against you guys. I've never
This
seen
guy-
anything like it.
And
I
I was
love it.
actually surprised that it took this long for him to get mentioned by one of the big three. But because Marchesin has left to Celta Vigo from Porto, Samuel Portugal is being talked about as his potential replacement.
Great goalie. Great
Big
goalie.
goalie, big goalie. Obviously, not going to be taking Diogo Costa's spot.
No.
So I think a guy this good should be starting, but obviously a good number two for Porto for sure.
They've over the last few years they just had great goalies.
100%.
Marchesine was
Was really
right there with Diogo.
with Diogo Costa. Yeah.
They're like, and again, two.
I just think it was
main
age
players.
more than anything else that took Marchesin out of the number one
Yeah,
spot. Diogo
he
Costa.
was great. Marchesine.
So we'll see if that ends up going through. The other move that was confirmed, Ruben Semedo signs with Al Duhaila.
This guy
Duhaila
just fell right off.
from
Eh?
Qatar.
Fell
3-year
right
deal
off.
from Olympiacos after a season-long
What is
spell
he doing, man?
at FC Porto. I like to say you can take the player out the buy, but you can't take the buy.
No.
It'll be interesting. Maybe a change of scenery. Some camelos out in the desert of Qatar. We'll get him.
He fucked up.
Huh?
This guy was one of the biggest prospects for our center back position for years. But yeah, obviously you just mentioned
Hey man,
shit
at
the
least
bed.
at least like this, he might have a front row seat to the World Cup in the winter time. Really sad to see this guy fall off though. Massive center back. We all thought maybe him going to Porto last year, he might form a dupla with Pep.
Yeah,
Never happened.
never
The guy could
happened.
never crack the team. Bouncing around in Porto B, could never crack the starting lineup there.
Especially
Sad to see.
now with Cottam going there. What a center
Oh
back.
man, this guy at one point, Ruben Semedo had to be the most promising center back
Oh,
in
yeah.
Portuguese football.
He was great at when he played for Sporting when he was a young player. Your favorite coach ever, Jordan Jesus, always relied on him, and he was honestly a beast, man. He was a great center back. But yeah, it gets in the way sometimes.
We'll see. We'll see what happens when he starts lacing them up for Allah Duhaila with Qatar. Other rumors we're gonna talk about. Man City supposedly looking at my boy Grimaldo and your boy Mateus Nunes. What do we think about these two moves if they happen?
Yeah, honestly, Grimaldo's. I know he's on the rival team, but he's a great left back. Great free kick taker. I think he's ready for that next step. Matheus Nunes. Oh, ever since he last year wearing Pep Guardiola. Believe it or not, if you don't believe me, it's not me just being biased because he's from Florida. He said whether it's true or not, whether it was just to pump his tires or not, he said he's one of the best players in the midfield in the world. And ever since that day, he was rumored everywhere. Man
Is
City's
that
one
the
of them.
move from Mateus Nunes?
Uh,
Like,
he,
where the fuck does he slot in
so
at Man City?
this is the thing. I think this was true, but now he's definitely more linked with Liverpool. They're looking for a player that's a box to box like him. I think he would slot in, especially Klopp. We all know he loves the Portuguese league. He's praised it before,
Yep.
and man, he's practicing what he preaches. You got Darwin Nunez, you got Luis Diaz, and now he's gonna get. I hope he doesn't,
Potentially.
but potentially gonna get Matheus Nunes. And you know what? What a player he is. He's one of those players like Darwin, like Luis Diaz, like those particular special players that you can just see bigger and better things
What's
for
his
him.
rescind clause?
45 million, so 45 million, I believe. They're starting to negotiate after 45 million. He was already Wolves already put an offer for him. He denied it. There's been other couple of other teams flirting around, but yeah, unless it's 45 million, he's.
Man,
gonna stay.
I feel like Sporting keeping him another year could easily get 50, 60 million.
I agree.
Easily.
And to be fair to him, Ruben Amorim praised him in a press conference. Actually, when it was they were talking about Ronaldo going there. I'm going to completely butch what he said, but essentially he pretty much said, I want to concentrate on my players, like Mateus Nunes, refusing offers that can change his life, essentially. I'm guessing that was the Wolves contract. So he is choosing to stay at his own will, and historically Sporting hasn't had a good past with players wanting to stay and refusing money right away.
Man, it's it's a hard thing to do because especially when you have a big, shiny, fat, juicy contract sitting in front of you. But sometimes that long term vision, if these guys stay another year, Sporting's gonna be in Champions League. We all know that that's big exposure, gets lots of eyeballs. Another year of him getting a little bit more mature as a player could actually potentially get him even further if he waits one more
Oh,
year.
100%. And that shows a lot about the player. Like
100%.
we
Yeah.
just brought up Smithu there. Smithu, if he had more of a head on his shoulders, like a Matheus Nunes, where he's a little bit more patient, a little bit more grounded. You could tell like little things like this, not just because it's sporting, but just these little mature steps and that vision you're talking about just shows that what kind of person he can be and what kind of player he can be. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
He's not just chasing money, chasing this,
Yeah.
chasing that. Like he's more grounded. So I do think he's going to be a very special player.
Well, what's that? Yeah. Ricky Ferreira chiming in saying, I heard he got a wage bump. Nowhere near what City will pay him, obviously, for sure. But
Yeah.
nice to see, obviously, Sporting
Yeah.
recognizing that he is in high demand, and knowing that they gotta up his salary to keep him happy.
We need
Obviously,
to
very
hire
important.
Benfica's marketing team, man. Start pumping them. Like start selling with for Nunes money and stuff, or João Felix money. That's what we're missing, man. Every week, just start pumping his tires.
Man, you're missing a lot more than that. You're missing the pure class, y
Oh,
qualidade
here we go.
made in Seychelles, buddy.
Okay, we just got back. All right, let's just ease our way back.
Let me touch on Grimaldo. I am really, really, really sad to see this because Grimaldo is a big time left back, and this has been talked about since last season when Grimaldo decided to exit the season early to go on fucking vacation. He got slapped with a fine by the team. Obviously, he came out, apologized for everything that happened. But ever since that happened, I was really, really hoping with the writing on the wall that he might be leaving, that Benfica would have made a big signing at left back. It never happened. We picked up Ristich at left back. I don't know that that's. I haven't really even seen him play. He really hasn't gotten any playing time. We really have zero depth in that position. So to lose Grimaldo at this stage, right before the start of the season, potentially getting into Champions League. Oh man, I think it's a huge, huge loss. Yes, he's a little bit suspect defensively, but I mean going forward and his free kick ability. I don't know if you've seen his
Yeah,
free kick
he's
goal,
always had that though.
and oh my god, it's unbelievable. So I mean I think it would be a big, big loss because I don't see Benfica having anybody else kind of in the crosshairs to replace him. So I would hate to see him go to Man City, but of course with Zinchenko going to Arsenal, Man City does have kind of a vacancy at that left back spot. Obviously, we know Cancelo kind of slots in there once in a while, but Grimaldo would be a good fit at Man City. Benfica had off, he would be a good fit at Man
Yeah.
City.
Do you agree with what Richie said?
What do you say?
Like defending his suspect.
Yeah, he is. He is a little bit
Yep.
suspect. That's definitely his biggest weakness. But I mean, going forward, he's lethal. He's
Yeah.
lethal.
For
And
sure.
again, the problem is, I'd love to replace him with somebody that was just as good going forward, but a little bit better defensively. But who do we got? And like I say, this Ristich, I haven't really seen him play yet, so I can't say whether he's going to be a good replacement or not. I just don't see the depth at left back for us to be able to get rid of Grimaldo at this point. That should have been for me. That should have been a major, major priority since day one, and we really have not gotten anything of
Yeah.
substance
I
in
think
that.
as a whole though, because you guys needed a lot compared to last year, you guys did fill in a lot of spots for
Oh, we did
sure.
for sure. No,
So I
Benfica
think
did
if you're
well.
looking at it as a whole, you guys obviously had a
The only
great
one
offseason.
I still want is Ricardo,
Yeah.
which I don't know if you guys heard the latest on that. Um, Benfica did put in a $15 million offer, apparently rejected again by Antonio Salvador, with Braga wanting now 20 million. This triggered a lawsuit from Malaga. If any of you don't know this, Ricardo Horta, part of the percentage of his contract is still owned by his former club Malaga. There was a clause in the contract that if Braga received any offer over 5 million and they rejected it, 60% of the 5 million had to get paid directly to Malaga. apparently, obviously, this is now the second offer that Braga has refused over the 5 million. Malaga is now trying to sue Braga to get them that 60%. Braga is going back and forth saying no, that you guys didn't act in confidence because they're saying that there was some sort of conflict of interest of them trying to coerce Benfica into making an offer. So a lot of back and forth there. At the end of the day, I'm not getting my hopes up. This thing has been talked about for months now. Ricardo Horta at Benfica. I would love nothing more than to see Ricardo Horta at Benfica. I'm a huge Horta fan. We've always talked about him on the podcast. One of the best Portuguese players in the league, hands down. I'd love to see him at Benfica. He's a Benfiquista, so he'd love to be there as well. Formado no Benfica, it'd be nice for him to come back. I don't know if that's gonna
And to be fair to him, like I'm no Salvador fan by any means. But 20 million even for Horta, that's still
It's crazy,
reasonable.
dude.
No, I think that's a good.
Crazy.
I think he's worth it.
You think he's worth
I
it?
think
You
he's
think
worth
he's
20.
worth it because Sporting paid 20 million for Paulinho?
It wasn't quite 20
Ah!
million. After the way they negotiated the contract, it was like 14.
My God, if Paulinho's worth 20 million, Horta's worth 50, caralho.
Hey man, then people want him over Ronaldo,
Oh
man.
my
It's
God.
cheap, Paulie.
Jesus.
But yeah,
Well, we'll see.
I think 20 million. I mean, without going on too much and beating a dead horse, I think 20 million would still be reasonable for a player like Horta. I think he's a special player.
He is. He is. I don't know if it's 20 because you got to remember Benfica didn't offer just 20. They offered they didn't offer just 15. They offered 15 plus I believe it was Gil Diaz
Ah,
as part of the deal. You know, was Gil Diaz worth 5 million? Probably
no.
not, but at least there's a little bit more substance than just the 15 mil in the
Yeah.
offer. So we will see what happens with that. All right, now with obviously all this Liga talk, guys, we'll just switch gears here to a little Liga preview. See what's going on with Liga Portugal. We've got it kicking off on Friday. Benfica contra Roca. I still do not understand how this scheduling was done. Benfica coming off of the game with Midtjylland on Tuesday, going into the first game of the season on Friday. I don't know how that game doesn't get switched to Saturday to give them an extra day before the next leg, but it is what it is. Benfica taking on Aroca at home on Friday. Saturday, Sporting is visiting Braga.
Tough
Big
game.
game, the game of the first leg, and then of course Porto is receiving Marítimo for the first game there. Those are the major three, and of course the rest of the fixtures are up there. But let's talk a little bit about the big matchup, Braga Sport.
That's oh, buddy. We play Braga game one or game week one, and then Porto game week three, both away games, and then Rio Ave. I know they just came from the second division, but they're known as maybe top six, top seven in Portugal most years. So it's going to be tough, tough first three games. So yeah, that Braga game is going to be massive. Nobody wants to start the league losing points, already chasing potentially Benfica and Porto. So yeah, tune in for that game. That's going to be huge. Hopefully, the Braga killer Pot is back. Historically, he's had massive games against Braga, an iconic moment. So hopefully, he shows up for that one. So I'm really excited for that game.
What are your thoughts for Sporting this year,
Honestly, okay, if you're on the outside looking in, and you're looking at their preseason, and you're like, okay, they drew uh, all their games. I mean, one was technically a loss, but it was a shootout. So I'll just in my brain, I'll just call them all as ties, and then one win against Roma. But in those games, maybe besides the first half against Wolves, we looked great. We were playing well, and one thing that Sporting changed this year, which I really agree with, we decided to play way more competitive games. Whereas in seasons past, maybe we'd have one good game for the Sing Lynch, but we'd sort of coast our way into the league, playing teams that you can just beat up, almost like Midtjylland. I'm just kidding, but
Midtjylland?
Midtjylland. But yeah, this year we played. I mean, they're not Liverpool or anything, but we played Roma. They won the Confederations Cup. Take that with a grain of salt. It's the Confederations Cup, but still a competitive team. We played Wolves, which besides the main six teams in the Premier League, we all watch Wolves. They're a pretty good team. So even Sevilla, they're a good Spanish team. Historically, they won how many Europa Cups? So we actually chose to go into the season with high competitive games, and No, we played well against them, and we got players like Trincão. In my opinion, he's still not quite ready. He still needs to get used to the system. We had a big offseason like Fatasu Isawaku. Good luck saying that one again.
Mais uma vez.
Fatasu Isuaku. Liverpool was after him. Actually, I don't know how we ended up getting him from Liverpool, but anyways, we brought in some good players. We have a lot more depth, whereas before we like talked about it. If we have any people that have been watching our podcast for years, we always talked about Sporting's depth, so that we added a lot more depth this year. We have another player, Saint Just. He's coming in, although he hasn't played yet. He tweaked his shoulder, I believe. Uh, he's going to be a big addition. So Sporting going into this season, at least on paper, look way more competitive, more depth, and I mean it's going to be a definitely a three-horse title race this year.
You
In my
think so?
opinion. Oh,
Right
for
till
sure.
the end?
Right till the end.
I can tell
Well,
you
unless
one.
Benfica starts pressing every game and they start falling off towards the end here, but yeah, I think on paper it's looking like a three-horse race again.
What about Porto? How do you feel about Porto this year?
So this is the thing, and I mentioned this last year going into the season. People were writing off Porto again, and I always said you never write off Porto. They somehow, even the year they won last year, they trickled in. Of course, they had quality players, but nobody was really talking about them that much. They were just sort of in the back burner, and they always put it together. Like Conceição, I have my thoughts about him, and yeah, I disagree with a lot of things he says, but he's a good coach. He gets that team playing, man. And they brought in guys like David Carmo. Man, I don't think even the most die-hard Sporting and Benfica fan can say that they have a better defensive back line than Porto this year. David Carmo and Pep in the back, that's going to be hard to break down. Dio Costa in net, he's a great goalie, man. So just even in the back, they're solid, and we all know great teams are built from the back up. So they have guys like Ilva Nilsson, Pep is coming in, Taremi, the diver, the swimmer, but I mean, you can put in the back of the net. So Porto is always going to have something to say. They're always going to be competitive. And they are the reigning champs, so definitely they're gonna be competitive
But
this
they
year.
did lose some major
Oh, yes.
keys. Vitinha, Fabio Vieira.
Yeah,
I mean, those two guys were linchpins for them
and
this
the
year.
penalty super sub. We'll say so.
Chiku!
So, yeah, they did take massive losses, nobody's denying that, but being competitive and having a say for the title, plus they have the 12th man, right?
The
The
one thing,
reffing team,
you know
they're
what?
always gonna have something to say.
This will be the one thing Vitinha and Fabio Vieira leaving. Steven Eustachio, big chance for the Canadian boy to
Yeah.
step up and gain a spot in a staple in Sporting
Didn't they
starting
pick
11.
up a player too from Brazil? He's supposed to be a big player. I know you mentioned him
Veron,
before. He
Veron,
looks really good.
Veron looks really good. The one thing about Veron looks really good. Young kid. One thing, obviously, coming from Palmeiras, he was being coached by Abel Freire. Abel Freire, before Veron joined Port, did talk a little bit about him being a bit of a wild kid. With
Fit
not
right
a
in.
with
Fit
what's
right in.
that?
He'll fit right in.
Well, outside, off the pitch kind of thing.
Yeah, no,
Being a little bit of a wild kid,
okay.
not having a very good head on his shoulders. Going to Portugal, that might be a challenge for him to. I mean, maybe Conceição can instill a little bit of good discipline to keep him on the straight and narrow. But that was one of the concerns Abel Freire had about him when he was at Palmeiras. But they did bring in Veron. You know, I my biggest concern with Port, not that I'm really concerned about it. I actually hope this happens. But
Yeah.
the biggest thing with Port I see this year is the outside politics causing some friction within the team. For those of you who don't know, Port sold Chico Conceição, so Sérgio Conceição's son, to Ajax for 5 million euros. The big problem that this caused was Vitinha and Fabio Vieira both left the clubs. Not mistaken, 30 million for Fabio Vieira, 40 million for Vitinha. If
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong.
Which I think you can vouch for this was very cheap for those players.
I mean, cheap, but still pretty decent price tags for two young Portuguese kids going to big clubs, Arsenal and PSG, respectively. Chico Conceição, maybe not as good as Vitinha and Fabio Vieira, but not that different in terms of value from 5 million to 30 to 40 million. And a lot of Porto fans were extremely upset that Porto sold Chico Conceição for only 5 million. Now, 5 million was his rescind clause. That was the value of his rescind clause. But for the last year and a half, 2 years, they've been trying to re-sign Chico Conceição, and they weren't able to. Now, the thing is, this is where the little bit of controversy comes into play. 'Cause a lot of people are saying that Sergio didn't want his son at Porto. So Sergio was actually the one telling Chico not to resign and to let a big team like an Ajax take him for his rescind clause so that he could get regular playing time because there was a little bit of a conflict of interest, if you will, with him at and you know what? I get
I
it
get it too.
because if Sergio starts playing Chico all the time, you know how the Portuguese media is. Ah, só joga porque é filho do treinador,
Yeah.
right? And then if he doesn't play, it could be the same thing. Sergio could be like, I don't want to play him because I don't want people to think I'm favoring my son, so I'm not going to play him. Right. So it's kind of a double edged sword for Sergio. Looking out for the best interests of his son, he probably said, don't sign. Now, of course, guys like Makaku, Fernando Madureira, the leader of the Super Dragões, the clock came out, obviously massively criticizing Sergio Conceição, saying that he didn't have Porto's best interests in mind, and that any of his sons would never play for Benfica. Obviously, we know the story there. Another one of Sergio Conceição's sons playing for Benfica now at Porto, but this could potentially be causing a big rift uh, internally within Porto. Obviously, the rumors were that Sergio Conceição was threatening to leave because of this. Threats and this and that. What do we think about what this could do to Porto and the way they play this year?
And there's a lot of president issues too that you the Pinto Costa and Vilas Boas. There's that
I think
creeping
there's
up
a
too.
big divide right now within Port fans. There's people who are diehard, a lot like what we saw in Benfica a couple seasons ago, right? The diehard, Vieiristas, and then the kind of the new blood that want to usher in a new generation. I think you're starting to see that in Porto as well. The diehard Pinta Costa, old guard, old mentality,
Yeah.
pro corrupt and your new guard, the kind of Village Bosch fans that want to see Porto usher in a new era that kind of shies away from so much corruption and bad publicity.
I'm gonna ask a really hard question from you.
Mm.
I'm gonna ask you to try not hate Porto in this moment. Okay.
Yeah.
Try to be as neutral as possible.
Uh-huh.
Just really try.
Okay.
Do you think it would be more beneficial for Vilas Boas to step in, or would you run out Pinto Costa's final years? Because he's gonna die in like 6 years max.
Just
This is pumping Viagra and all this
serious,
stuff. His heart's all messed up and
serious
shit.
prediction right there. I don't know. It's tough because Pinta Costa is a very very influential person, not only within the club but in the country. Um, so he has a lot of power. He has a lot of influence, much like Vieira does, but on I would say an even higher level than Vieira did at Benfica. He's been there for 40 years. Man. It's not every day you get a president like that. So it's interesting, man. I don't know. I don't know what the outcome of Vilas Boas stepping in. I think whatever transition happens in Porto has to be a transition supported by Pinto Costa. I think that's the only transition that will happen. So either Vitor Bahia will step in. We talked about at the beginning of the podcast an interview with Sergio Conceição. He was actually asked about him being a president, and he said, "Me be president? That would be it would be a disrespect to Pinto Costa." So I think whatever transition has to happen in Port has to be a transition that is supported by Pinto Costa. Otherwise, that team will implode.
Yeah,
That's
I
my
agree.
thoughts on it.
But all that aside, which you're 100% right, and I honestly think that's where it's going to go. But if all those politics, all that stuff aside, I do think me trying not to, putting all my sporting stuff aside, try. I do think a new look for Porto would be more beneficial because they although they did win a lot in 40 years, but we all know the image they have. Unfortunately, I think uh, Sporting went through it with Varandas. Benfica's going through it with Rui Costa. I think it might be. I mean, in my opinion, I'm no Porto fan, but another time for somebody else, new looks, new ideas to step in.
And I think that's where um, they will implode. That's my
Yeah,
prediction is they will implode because if it will be a move that will not be support if it's a move that is not supported by Pinto Costa, which I think there's a lot of Portuguese that will push for that, it will just force a massive, massive divide within the club, and I think they'll start to implode. I really do. That's my
yeah.
prediction anyway.
Okay.
As we start to see the Pinto Costa era kind of fizzle out. Lots to talk about, guys. This Liga will be interesting. We're going to be coming to you guys once a week. We're going to try to do every Sunday. Obviously, try to schedule it the best we can with our own personal lives, but we're going to be trying to come to you guys once a week. There's going to be lots to talk about. We're going to keep you guys posted. New look, new format. Join us live if you can. Chime in with your comments. We'd love to read them and see them. And man, this was good. I'm glad to be back. Relaunch
Me too.
successful.
One more question. I know we're just ending. Who do you think all the three big teams are winning this weekend? Or any controversy before we end the podcast?
I think Benfica is going to take it at home against the Roca. I think Porto will take it against Maritim. I am predicting a shock Braga victory over Sporting at
Wow,
home.
I think that's what he wants.
Yes, it is what I want.
I think that's just not realistic, but we'll see. Anything can happen.
That's my predictions. We'll
Thank
see
you
what
so
happens.
much, guys, for tuning in. It's so great to be back. It's
Yes,
been
it is,
way
man.
too long, and
100%.
yeah, hopefully we can make it happen more continuously.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Take care. Thanks
Love
for
you
tuning
guys.
in. Ciao.